What is going on, everybody? It is Thursday, September 26th. Coming live to you for the Bills-Ravens Sunday Night Football preview. We've been rocking and rolling, getting these out. Super fired up. Jake is not able to join us this evening, so I got my guy Anthony from Cover One Football. I went on his show. Anthony, I went on your show a couple days ago here. Now you're returning the favor. I appreciate you so much, my friend. You can follow him at pro__ant. With the Cover One Network, they do amazing work, a great group of people. The Bills, everybody loves Bills fans except for like maybe Jets fans and a couple of those folks, but we don't care about them. So make sure to go give Ant a follow. And how you feeling, my friend? How's this week been treating you?
It's been treating me good. I am excited that the week is almost done. I am crazy pumped to rearrange my Saturday so I can watch Alabama and Georgia. And I'm a Hurricanes guy. Miami plays tomorrow night, so little Miami game on Friday night, some good sports action Saturday and Sunday, and I'm feeling good. I feel like Thursday night always kicks off the weekend, so I feel good. And the music, the intro music to start here was like some good like techno clubby kind of feel, and then right into like some nice kind of like hip hoppy jazz. I'm vibing right now. It's a good time. I'm excited.
Fired up for it. So yeah, man, Ravens, Bills, Sunday Night Football, Ravens' first primetime home game. They already played one against the Chiefs to start the year. The Bills coming off of a big Monday Night Football victory where they thoroughly trashed the Jaguars. Looking through the history of the Bills and Ravens, they have had some weird games over the years, very much so, especially maybe like 10 years ago. The Bills came to town in 2022, came back on the Ravens, who were up, I believe, 20-3 in October. Before that, of course, the Wind Fest playoff game, the missed kick fest, 17-3 there. Lamar Jackson throws a pick six. Justin Tucker misses 2 kicks. Tyler Bass misses 2 kicks. The Bills are able to have one nice drive in that game, get it done. Prior to that, 2019, they had enough kind of normal game, I'd say, in Buffalo. Ravens took that one. They played for the season opener in 2018. The Ravens won big.
Murder.
Then there's been some weird games. The Kiko Alonso game a few years ago. I think he had 3 picks of Joe Flacco. The Bills won in 2013. 2016, the Ravens won a slugfest, 13-7. Man, I can think of some memories. What do you think of when you think of Ravens, Bills over the years? What shoots into your mind?
I think of, so I've told you this before. And not even just because I'm a Hurricanes guy, but Ed Reed is my favorite player of all time. And so during a significant tenure of like Ed Reed's run with Baltimore, I obviously like Ray Lewis. I love Terrell Suggs more than Ray. He's my 2 behind Ed. But the Ravens were like my team when the Bills would fall apart. So when the Bills were like 1-5 or 1-6, I'd be like, all right, cool. I'm focused on draft picks. My heart is going with Baltimore. Let's see what they can do. And when I think of Bills Ravens, I think about how stupid close all those games were when the Bills were terrible. And I was just like, okay, cool. This will be a nice win for the Ravens. And then like the Bills would make it a contest. And I'd be like, what are you doing? Like, you're not going to make the playoffs. We want a better draft pick. And also don't hurt the Ravens. The Ravens were always trying to like fight for top seeding in the AFC. It was them in Pittsburgh every year. So like conference record mattered in addition to the division record. That's what I'll always remember. Like the Bills just being annoyingly difficult at times when I would be rooting for the Ravens because the Bills season was done. And that, and like I said to you on my show on Tuesday, it worked out obviously with Josh Allen. I didn't want the Bills to trade any of their picks. I wanted them to stand pat in that draft where they took Allen, and I wanted them to take Lamar Jackson. So that's what I'll always think of as well, is, kind of wanting Lamar to come to Buffalo and the Bills to be able to build around him with the bevy of picks that they had in that draft class.
Certainly. And Josh Allen and Lamar entering the league together, like you mentioned. Josh Allen gets his first snaps against the Ravens in that season opener. It was a torrential downpour in Baltimore. And man, just a little side note, everybody throws the Josh Allen development thing around, how the way he was drafted, his completion percentage was always low, the arm talent, the strength. I was watching a little Colts today, just randomly going through some things, and man, Anthony Richardson, he's having a tough go. He's turning the ball over a little bit. The completion percentage is low. There aren't a lot of high volume opportunities for receivers in that offense. People are mad about fantasy football and things like that. What's up, Taylor? We got Taylor here. How you doing, Taylor?
Oh, Taylor Kyles. I love Taylor. Taylor's awesome.
Man. He's the man. Happy to have you, Taylor. So, that whole spiel, The one guy I think that maybe does have the physical tools, we'll see if he can put in the work, is Anthony Richardson, that could maybe develop in that way, but it does not look great right this moment. We'll see these young quarterbacks. We talk about it a lot on this show and looking around the league a little bit. So now we've got Mahomes, Allen, Dak, Lamar, Burrow, some of these quarterbacks that are kind of stepping into being the tenured, older, almost old heads. The two oldest quarterbacks are Aaron Rodgers at 40, Matt Stafford at 36 years old. It is not this old quarterback league. We don't have Peyton and Tom and Drew and Ben and all these guys anymore. Aaron, kind of the last one there. Yeah. Derek Carr might be like the third or fourth oldest quarterback in the league, which is crazy to say. So how have you seen Josh Allen, who we'll talk about, of course, a ton tonight? We'll say his name probably 30 times. How have you seen him developmentally as he steps into that maybe middle-ish chapter of his career now in year 7?
You know, it's funny. His path, right? He started out mechanical issues left and right, but, you know, still showing the unicorn flashes that kind of made him a thing at Wyoming and then early on in his tenure in Buffalo. And we saw early on in his career really starting, I'm horrible with years, after the 2019 season where the Bills lost in the wild card to the Texans. Going into that 2020 season and yeah, I think even going into 2019, but in that stretch, he was doing a ton of work in the offseason on his mechanics, working with Jordan Palmer, and it was all footwork and timing and shoulder and rotation and just cleaning up everything. And we saw a huge jump in his game. And for whatever reason, you know, it could be him just, you know, not doing it anymore, or it could have been the injuries that he's had the past couple of years and impacting his offseason. We saw those mechanics kind of go by the wayside a little bit. And this year, he's gotten back to it. You are watching him throw, and he just looks like the picturesque teach tape type of thrower where his eyes are in rhythm with his feet. He's doing the whole like biting the burger with his non-throwing hand. He's rotating through. He's got good platform, good base. And then he still is able to uncork like the stupid off-platform throws where he's rolling left and can just flip it to Ty Johnson on a little corner route. But I think developmentally, it's that course. We've seen him fix the mechanics, fix things technically, tie that into being the mutant alien unicorn that he is. And now going into year 7 or in year 7, I think he's also at a stage where he's playing more quarterback from the neck up and just taking what teams are giving him and willingly, you know, watching 3 routes drain the middle of the field and him dumping it down to James Cook for an easy like 17, 18 yards. And I said it kind of jokingly earlier in the week, but it was tied to, you know, Joe Brady working in New Orleans with Sean Payton and Drew Brees. And I was like, he's playing quarterback like Drew Brees. Like he's just taking like, oh, there's a number advantage outside. Cool. I'm just going to spit it out real quick on this run with a pass tag or an RPO, or, oh, everybody's, you know, hauling ass because of this clear out. Okay, cool. I'm just going to check it down over the middle and take an easy 8 to 12 yards. If my guy breaks a tackle, he'll get 15 to 20 maybe. He's playing quarterback so smart. And right now, so much of the conversation is always about like how unique he is of a player physically, which is important and understandable, but he's really fine-tuned things mechanically and mentally when it comes to playing the position.
So well said. And Allen and Jackson both fall into that category. They are, for my money, throw Anthony Richardson in there if you want, based on what he did at the combine, all that stuff we see him do, the cannon. But the two most athletic quarterbacks in the NFL that both came into the league with so much skill. They are playing a different sport than guys at the position ever really have. We have not Cam Newton, we've seen have the big body like Josh Allen, but really Josh Allen's physicality, the quickness, the sack avoidance, the arm strength, the ability to process, those things starting to develop. Lamar Jackson with his timing, with his ability to get to second windows, to be able to read, deceive a defense, both of those things, guys that have come along a lot. And you mentioned Joe Brady. I'm going to pull up some tape here. I did tape of the Bills offense tonight. And what I have loved so much about the Bills offense so far is that life has been a lot easier on Josh Allen because of the amount of motion and the rhythm of this offense. We talked about it on your show, Ant. The rhythm of the Bills offense is the best of any unit in football in terms of confidence, in terms of firing the 5 guys up front, firing off the ball together, in terms of all of the route concepts, the spacing being so intentional and confident. The receivers know their job. They know it pre-snap, and they're also confusing the heck out of some defenses. So a couple of these plays we talked about right here. I'm going to share my screen and pull up some clips here that I kind of had some labels on. So I got into Miami, got into The Jaguars game as well here. So in this one, I just said the details. We labeled it as the details. Life is easy on Josh Allen. They run a orbit return motion, and we're going to see them run some mesh, and it just gets perfectly executed. We see all the traffic and all the motion that the Bills create, which gives something simple up top. We see James Cook go in motion. Okay. We see the defender move with him, number 11. Okay. He's walking with him. And then we see a second motion, some eye candy. And we're going to see the two top receivers in the screen just set a big old pick in mesh essentially for James Cook, and he walks into the end zone. I wanted to rewind this a little bit. It'll keep going, but Ant, feel free to give your perspective on this play and kind of this motion and the things we're seeing out of the Bills offense.
I love this one. This is Brady busted this out against Dallas last year, I believe. And it's a running back mesh traffic. Brady calls it slither, and it worked for a touchdown then. It worked for a touchdown now. And you hit all the main points. Like I love the pre-snap motion from both Cook and Samuel to help ID that it's going to be man coverage. I love Matt Collins pointing out that there's going to be heat coming from the slot. Allen's able to look at everything because of the motion and the shifts and pretty much be able to tell and diagnose that it's going to be cover zero. And then, you pointed out Hollins again, and even Shakir a bit, setting that legal pick, just running some interference, no pun intended, causes David Long to trip over himself and fall, and Cook is wide open out the front door. And Allen even sells it a little bit too. Allen knows he's got it. He drops and he gives a little eyes right. He mentioned this in the presser after the game. He gives a little eyes right, knowing that it's going to be there on the left. And it's an easy button. He doesn't have to do anything hard. And when you've got a guy who can be a Super Saiyan, but doesn't have to be, and he can just play within the structure, that's super deadly.
It is. And especially in the red zone, we did see Allen against the Jaguars be a little special with some time and space. We'll get to that play at the very end here. So yeah, the details on this, just fantastic. The binds they're putting defenses in, running around. I'm going to talk about man coverage has been death, and Josh Allen has been moving zones with his eyes. So they're in a very good spot. Everything is so intentional, making life easy on Allen. And I will contrast just lightly off the Bills have been getting here for a couple years, this offense. They've been trying to get there. Joe Brady taking over last year has gotten them there quickly. Kind of, it feels like completing the vision for what they wanted for Josh Allen so much. And I do feel like the Ravens, they brought in Todd Monken to try and get to where the Bills kind of have been and are getting to. I think the Bills are a little bit ahead in that development. I think Josh Allen was asked to do a little bit more, maybe pre-snap a little earlier in his career. Lamar getting there as well. So I thought that was interesting. Khalil Shakir, we were talking about this and right before, who is the main guy? And you said you had a great point, Dalton Kincaid. You think they still want to get the ball to Kincaid. When I see Khalil Shakir, I see he's number one in this offense. I see he is a bucket. I see that they are manufacturing looks for him. Josh Allen not making any unforced errors, has not thrown a pick yet this season. And this is on third down here. We're just going to see motion cause those defenders to work with. No unforced errors. The Dolphins disguise this look, and we're going to see they're kind of disguising like it's a middle of the field close coverage. They're going to drop off on third down. They're going to drop off into, I think, like a Tampa 2 or cover 2 kind of look here. And clean pocket from the offensive line. The Bills' offensive line has been playing so stout. It is only a 3-man rush, I believe. I have to think again, maybe one of the...
Yeah, Calais Campbell, at 38 years old, drops into coverage and actually does a pretty good job underneath on Hollins.
100%. So Allen, big pocket back there, works through his progression, fires back to the soft spot. You got Shakir on a linebacker. That's the NFL. Let's get our good, confident pass catcher on a linebacker or safety. Let them work the soft spot, work the blind spot, and the Bills are just confident. Shakir is confident. I'm going to sit in my spot, and I'm going to let Josh Allen get back to me. So disguising a look, getting through your read, staying in the pocket. Look how wide his base is back there. Check out how he's throw ready. Check out how tight he is in that clean pocket, ready to rip. And we all know Josh Allen looks it over. We see that defender sitting on the Dalton Kincaid sail route. Might have been his first read there. The disguise, no problem. Let me get backside here. Let me flip. Oh, they've high-load Kincaid effectively. Let me get back to Shakir here for a first down. I thought that was a big play in that game. I thought it showed Allen reading that one so well. You can check it out from the pocket. Anything here?
I think this one ties into some of the Joe Brady aspect, and one of the major differences between him and Ken Dorsey. Ken Dorsey's offense was a lot of, this concept over here to the left is going to beat this coverage. This concept over here to the right is going to beat this other coverage. On the snap, read it out and make it happen. And then there was a lot of option routes and things baked into the route concepts for receivers. So you're making a lot of plays and adjustments on the fly. You have to see everything at the same time. It's part of the reason Cole Beasley and Josh Allen were so great together, because they saw everything the same at the same time, and it was just bang, 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 and they would kill you to death with option routes. But Brady's is more just natural plays, natural progressions, and you highlighted here. Allen looks to the left. He looks at number 1. He looks at number 2. It's not there. Number 3 is just, it's Shakir, and it's just natural, right? You're going from 1 to 2, and then as you start to come through, you don't have to go all the way back to the other side of the field. You don't have to fully read everything. It's just naturally into your field of vision. And I love how Shakir just sits down. He hinges a little bit, opens himself up away from the coverage so he can perfectly sit in that space. And then, yeah, you highlighted some of the mechanics there for Allen too. It's like he catapults that thing in there. You're just seeing good. I hate the comp of when people compare like pitching to being a quarterback, because with the mound and rotations and spin rate and all these things, it's just a different set of stress on your arm and your elbow. But Allen's getting like pitcher type of rotation where he is following through. You are seeing that rotation through regularly, in addition to the eyes and feet being in sync. And he's just good base, good shoulder rotation mechanics. And when you're pairing that with good concept and design and progression reading, it's part of the reason why it's looking so pretty all the time.
100%. Was looking through some next gen stats that I'm going to throw up on the screen here. In rhythm, that's what we're talking about. 2.5 to 4 seconds. Getting to, that second read, that third read. In week 3 against the Jags, we're going to get some plays there in a little bit after the Dolphins. Highest rate in a game. He did that so often, so well, staying in rhythm. Leads the NFL in completion percentage, yards per attempt passer rating, drop back success rate on quick passes as well. It is the quickest he's gotten the ball out. It's 3 weeks. We have a small sample size. That's all right, though. That's what the Bills want. You can see it. It's intentional. It's working. And just success rate in general. If there's an incompletion, it's all right. They'll go figure it out again on the next snap. They've been so darn good. Another one here, 23 of 26 targeting slot receivers. We just talked about Khalil Shakir here. The EPA is just ridiculous. Yeah, nearly double the next closest passer targeting the slot. I think that might be in a per throw basis. I'm not sure. It was +1 EPA. Jaden Daniels 0.6 there.
Yeah,
3.8 air yards per attempt. Just firing the ball underneath.
And Shakir has been a huge part of that, like you mentioned, and I think it's part of the offensive line has been good, but all of these things kind of playing in together with one another and seeing the quick passes tie in, and it's hard to get pressure on quick passes, but you're able to execute those quick passes because Allen is in rhythm. He's throwing with timing. Guys are getting open at the right time. All of it coalescing into one, and part of getting the ball out quickly when you're targeting the slot, like it's just distance. It's easier to complete a pass to the guy in the slot than it is to the guy on the far outside the numbers, because there's a shorter distance. And it's all just flowing. And I was looking up some stats to go with your Khalil Shakir number 1 theory. And again, this is 3 weeks in. The sample size is small. But Khalil Shakir, his receiving metrics amongst 144 qualifying wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs, he's first in total receiving EPA. He's first in EPA per target. He's 13th in yards per route run. He's 12th in yards after catch. He has a 100% catch rate. He's 18th in catch rate over expected. And then he's 31st in yards after catch over expected. So putting together a pretty good start to the year for him, and kind of furthering that notion for you as the true one in this offense, and really starting to emerge as such.
They're going to him in a lot of key situations. And something that I was thinking about earlier today as well, the way he's being used reminds me of Jackson Smith and Jigba in ways at Ohio State a little bit, and that Shakir did come in a year ahead of Njigba. But we saw Njigba maybe 2 weeks ago, week 2, have a really big game. I think that the Seahawks should be looking to what the Bills are doing with Khalil Shakir. I think they're very similar players. I think Shakir has a little bit more spice after the catch, a little tiny bit.
He's like when he gets the ball in his hands, and it's fun to see him doing this because this is what he was at Boise State. When he gets the ball in his hands, he's like a running back, whether it's contact balance, whether it's toughness.
He's got that trunk. He's got the trunk in his legs. He kind of just looks that way.
Yeah, somebody compared him to Sonic the Hedgehog with like how he moves and how he's built. But the physicality, I feel like he's more of a Knuckles. And just like that's just what he is, like the toughness and like the ball energy and speed. It just all of it. He fits it well. He's like a back with the ball in his hands.
Khalil Shakir, fun to say, fun to watch, all those things. We're going to go take one more look at him. This is another one. Maybe I'm going a little bit too heavy on this one. We'll just breeze through maybe a little bit. Just a little eye candy, just so much eye candy, a clean pocket. Josh Allen, same deal. The Ravens, the reason I want to show this clip is because the Ravens are playing a lot of these middle of the field open. They're getting burnt over the linebackers, under the safeties, and we're going to see Allen work back, look it off, and just rifle a ball into this gigantic void in the middle of the field. It is just too easy. It's automatic. If he's not looking there, it's hard to go jump it. That's some Ed Reed type of stuff. Knowing he's going to get there, having to beat him to it, you're not going to do it. So we just see that motion in the backfield. Allen's looking right again. I assume he's just looking this off. I think he knew where he was going to go the whole time. I don't think coverage changed. I think he just knew, I'm going to look it off real quick, come back and fire it into this gigantic void in the middle of the field here. I mean, this is ridiculous. The Ravens have been getting torched there every single game. You can't let this happen. I said, say no to leaving the middle of the field unoccupied here. I captioned that. And he's just fitting the ball. I mean, he's throwing it like a pneumatic machine, like you said, a catapult here. Watch him just look it off and then rifle this ball.
Yeah, and what's nice too is the placement. I choose to believe he throws this more to Shakir's back shoulder, kind of right on his numbers rather than lead him, because he knows Poyer is coming from that boundary side of the field ready to make a play. Poyer goes for it, ends up hitting Shakir in the head, so they get an extra 15 on top of it. But the arm strength, also watch the mechanics on this one. Like, eyes are in sync with his rhythm, the timing. Left hand bites the burger, the rotation through with the throwing arm, and the ball is on Shakir. You watch, Shakir naturally settles. It's kind of like the opposite. Instead of throwing somebody open, you throw him to settle down, and it protects Shakir a little bit. So the ball placement and the arm strength, just real pretty stuff. And like you said, like that area of the field being a vulnerability for the Ravens, we got a quarterback who's not afraid to sling it in that way, can sling it in that way, and then has a dude who is very comfortable operating in that space. It's definitely an aspect to watch in this game.
And you can almost see the shoulder start to open before the eyes get there, telling me I know exactly what I was doing this whole time. You see that lead shoulder open up before his head tilts. Bam, fires it in. Khalil Shakir, shocker, just ripping it in there. We'll go through. Look it off, all this stuff. We can get through this one. Oh, I accidentally jumped.
The graphics are nice. I love like the highlighter color arrows and the style. Like, it's bringing me a lot of joy. I enjoy film in general, but your like telestration is on point. This is a good time. Like
a colorful John Madden here, trying to throw all these on. So
yeah,
we'll get out of this one. It'll be over in a second. But just so much of Allen being able to process here. First play of the game.
Yes,
we are going to see another pick, and we see the Jaguars start to panic. If you play man, the Bills figure it out with the motion. Oh, the linebacker's running with him. They know. Mac Hollins up top here. I think, what is that? Devin Lloyd, 23. Yeah, Olacon's 33. Olacon's 23.
Yep.
And Mac Hollins, I believe maybe it's Kincaid on this one.
Nope, that's Hollins up there setting.
It's Mac Hollins. Yep. Sets a perfect pick.
Who else would it be with the perfect pick?
Exactly. Just makes guys run into each other. I mean, you can see Hollins kind of feign upfield to get out here, and it's too early in the year to know, like, oh, we got to pass off real quick. It's early, and the Bills are forcing you to do it immediately. So just first play of the game. This, I believe, was the second pass attempt or play of the game. So now they're worried about the mesh traffic. We talked about this one. Ant, take me through this play. I know you know this one pretty well here.
Yeah, so 4th and 3, they've run this in a variety of ways, and what they like to do with it, who they're trying to target, and what type of like alignment formation concept they'll put it into. So again, you get more pre-snap motion. I feel so bad showing this again for poor 22 on the Jags. I'm not going to say him by name. So you can figure it out, obviously, because you can just look up the roster, but he just gets completely misled. The pre-snap motion from Shakir helps ID that it's going to be man coverage. 22 is on him. And as you highlighted, once Shakir goes, it's like, okay, he's going across the formation, psych, he's coming on that orbit. And so 22 puts his head down, like he's like, oh, let me hurry up and get back across the field so I can match Shakir. And by the time he does that, Shakir's put his foot in the ground and he's gone out the front door. And also notice the timing of it. Yeah, poor 22, you highlighted him. He's eyeballing Shakir. He's watching him. He's ready to go across. There goes Shakir. And so 22 stops looking at him. He just puts his head down, which makes sense. You got to hightail it across the field, and he's just completely
and he's worried about 15 picking him.
Yes,
right here. He's like, I'm going to beat 15 to the spot. We just saw this. We just saw it on tape.
Yeah,
and it's just going. This is 4th down. Also, this is 4th and
3. Yep.
Aggressive, just leaves him in the dust, man. Just making it easy on Josh Allen here. I said here, eye candy's killing defenses. Now we see the Jags trying to over communicate here. They're trying their best.
I love that you grabbed this one. This is a nice one too to show how it layers. Yep.
It is still just working off. And effectively what happens is that I have the back end arrows. The Jags are trying to communicate. They're trying to figure it out. They're trying to sort the mesh, the traffic, what could be happening, the motion, all of it. And ultimately, Khalil Shakir goes nowhere. He just stands at the line of scrimmage on a quick.
Yeah.
And we'll see. I put a question mark here. They're like, what's happening? What's happening? Let's try and talk. Let's talk this out. Khalil goes nowhere. And it's just a 2-on-2 with 10 yards of space. We see them back up. 10 yards of space there. Shakir went nowhere. They get him the ball on the move, too. He wasn't stationary. He wasn't static. He was dynamically moving really quickly to go get a first down, get upfield there. Another one here. This is just even simpler. Motion inside to run outside. The DB is going to end up giving up outside leverage. More just using their own guys to pick, screen, and manipulate leverage here. Another example. All right, we want to run the sail route to Kincaid. We saw that in the Dolphins game. All right, we want to get there. And they figure out a way to do it. We get the DB to open up inside so we can throw the ball outside. We get him to give up his leverage using motion there. Really a couple awesome plays for the Bills. Anything you wanted to add to these two?
No, I love that first one with Shakir. You hit everything, and it's just you wrote it down on the picture too on the screen. Like you're using that to manipulate. Like Johnson and Cisco are communicating on that. They rock and roll. Like, oh, he's going across the field, so you're dropping down. I'm going to the post, and then as they're doing that, Shakir puts his foot in the ground and pops out. And then this one too with Kincaid on the sail route. It's basically a smash concept. You hit it. We showed it in the Dolphins game. Dolphins had zone coverage. They bracketed Kincaid. This time the Jags are in man, so Kincaid is open. But what's also nice about that is if you notice on the Dolphins one, Hollins came in motion and then ran the underneath on the smash concept. This time Kincaid is coming in the short motion, but he's running the corner route. And so it's just those little things like I choose and I hope to believe that like Brady's in there being like, hey, we're going to show the same look, except we're changing who's running the corner and who's running the underneath, just in case somebody seeing that on tape and they're like, yo, here comes that short motion. The motion man is the underneath. Nope. Psych. The motion man is now going to be that corner guy. And now if you've seen that, say you're the Ravens, you've watched all these games because you're trying to watch games in a 4-game sample size, but there's only been 3 right now. You've seen that on tape if you're Zach or if you're Kyle Hamilton or whoever. So now when that motion comes, you have to play it straight up for both possibilities. It's not like, well, when they do this,
kind of remain in neutral, stay in neutral.
Yep. And that's hard as hell because it means you have to account for multiple things. And Brady's so good at doing that, and then he'll add another little wrinkle or change the route concept and do something different. Just when you think you've caught on, he adds something to make you have to consider a multitude of possibilities, and that makes it so hard to prepare for, but then also hard to execute in game because you have to plan for all those things, which means you can't try and play tendency. Certainly.
Well said, my friend. And here we go check out. It took me a while. I didn't watch the Cardinals game tape-wise, really. Like I said, I could have we talked about some gap stuff maybe that the Cardinals did, and we can talk about that side of the ball in a moment. But it took me a while to find Josh Allen having to make a play. Took me a while. And boy, oh boy, did he. I think this might be a 3-man rush as well. Yep. I think they tried to do a drop 8 here.
Exactly.
And Allen's just going to roll right, take his time, wait for the play to develop. Kincaid's going to run the back line. He's tough in the red zone, man. And he didn't even have to he didn't have to shuck anybody. He didn't have to jive anybody. And he went and got a bucket. Kincaid with a nice little sliding catch there. Everybody's fired up. And Josh Allen just making plays in the red zone, man. I mean, spreading it out, giving him time, room, space with the spread formation down in the goal to go here in the low red zone. And, 3-man rush. Jags are like, all right, well, they're doing all this motion. Let's put more guys in coverage. Well, Allen extends the play, and he can fit a ball anywhere on the move, on the run there. Anything else you've seen out of Josh overall here before we flip on to the other side of the ball?
No, I just like that point you made, like that one being in that game where like he had to go make a play. Those are happening fewer and farther in between this season, especially week 2 and week 3. He had to do it a little bit more in week 1. Arizona really honestly could have won that game on both sides of the ball. They had a good plan, but in week 2 and week 3, a lot of it was just Allen playing within structure, playing within scheme. He didn't have to do anything heroic or anything, taxing mentally or physically aside from a couple plays. And again, I think that's what's most terrifying about this. Like if you, and I'm not making this comp, and I don't want people to be like, this guy thinks Allen is Drew Brees. But imagine if imagine if you put Drew Brees' brain in like Brett Favre's body. Like, and Allen is better on the run than Favre. I'm just like thinking of that combination because someone who can play within structure, that's cerebrally, but also can just go Super Saiyan.
You're making the Peyton connection like you talked about too.
Yeah, fair. Absolutely. And it's just, I think that's been the big thing is he's keeping the Super Saiyan side of him tucked away. Like he's keeping that in the holster and he hasn't had to really take it out too much, which is terrifying because Josh Allen's beating you, but he's not doing it because he's Josh Allen. He's just playing good quarterback. Like, and that's just such a tough thing to have to defend.
And really, the one element is that with him not having to use his legs, the threat is still there. It's still part of your structure. It's still
you
part
have
of the way
to
you
account
rush
for it. Yeah.
So it kind of limits what you can do on the back end. They're getting into this mesh stuff where you have to try to maybe play man. If you cover it well, finally, if the Ravens can, like we said, stay in neutral, then who's going to tackle Josh Allen? If he wants to go get a bucket, it's tough. It's very tough. I talked about on your show, Kyle Hamilton, Roquan Smith, Trenton Simpson, those guys are going to have some plays to make. Anything else that stands out to you on this side of the ball before you flip over to the other side of the ball and get into some predictions?
No, you hit it. Just really well done with all the pre-snap stuff, motion, play action. To put some numbers into perspective with it, the Bills currently lead the NFL in EPA per play for both motion and play action. First in EPA per play with motion at 0.33. The Cards and Saints are tied for second at 0.13. And then they're first in EPA per play on play action at 0.98. The Niners are second at 0.83. They haven't run it a ton, though. They run it 15 times play action on the year. In terms of pass attempts for him. He's done some other stuff with it. They're multiple. 6 offensive lineman sets, pre-snap motion, play action, good run game aside from Josh Allen.
The tight ends can get I was going to say get in the way. They do better than that. Dawson Knox just does better than that, but they're making it tough on you. Man, the Jags had some weird it was the Dolphins, James Cook's 49-yard touchdown. There was a duo where there was a triple team with one guy in the gap.
Yeah, because my thought here is, so the Bills will show that look out of 12 or 6 offensive lineman sets, whatever, but the formation is still the same. You just have a tight end in. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you very much. Optimistic Avocado. I like that name. Oh, and I love the logo. It's the Orioles logo, but it's a Raven and then Ravens. That's sick. I like that a lot. They'll show that same alignment that, again, it could be 12 or it could be an extra offensive lineman. And then they'll run weak side zone away from the tight end side. So I don't know if Miami screwed up or because up to that point, the Bills had been running a bunch of mid zone. And I'm thinking Miami was playing the weak side mid zone run. But like you said, it left them so outnumbered on the front side that duo turned into trio or trio.
That's what I was thinking in my head.
And they just murk Hand, I think, is at the 3-tech and just drive him out. And then there's nobody to fit the gaps and Cook goes untouched. Poyer takes a bad angle and it's gone. And that's a key thing too, right? Like, and that's a good example of what Brady does. He'll show the same look and then run multiple things out of it. So again, going back to that point, it's not like, okay, here comes this formation or this alignment. Here comes duo because they can run mid zone or duo out of it. And though that may not seem like a lot to someone, be like, so what? It's 2 concepts. Those are vastly different and they affect vastly different parts of the field. And when you tie it into, if the formation is into the boundary or into the field, it's all this simple stuff that he's doing, but he's just pushing good buttons and pulling the levers at the right time.
100%, keeping teams honest. And if they're not, you can get to it because you're able to get to multiple looks, multiple run concepts from that front. Switching over to the other side of the ball here, I wanted to pop into the injury report for a moment. Ravens potentially without left guard Andrew Voorhees in this one. Money's on Pat McCary to swap on over to left guard. Sounds like the move there is quite possible, which would propel Roger Rosengarten, Ravens rookie second-round tackle, to potentially his first start, if that is the case. Jalen Armour-Davis also out with the hamstring. Terrell Bernard, the Bills, under-heralded, but very not by Bills fans, not by a lot of folks. Very good coverage linebacker, very good linebacker, limited today, working back into practice. Teron Johnson, the nickel, still out with a forearm, has still not practiced yet. I anticipate him to miss this one. Anything there on Bernard and the linebackers on the depth of the Bills defense or anything of the sort?
I wouldn't expect Bernard to play. He's just starting to rev it up a little bit. Had a harness on today for that pec. So yeah, I think there's a chance he might be able to play against the Texans, but I wouldn't expect him to suit up in any shape or form against Baltimore. Like you said, Taron Johnson definitely out, cracking his forearm, hoping for the next couple of weeks potentially a return. We'll see. But other than that, they're largely pretty healthy, except at that linebacker spot. Milano's already out for the year. Bernard is out. And like we talked about on my show with Taron Johnson being out, you've got all backups at that second level. So it's Dorian Williams, a second-year linebacker from Tulane, who still is kind of learning on the fly when it comes to NFL type of coverages and how to properly get depth. He's very inexperienced with match coverages. And then the other linebacker is Balen Spector, who's actually played admirably well, especially because he hasn't really had a lot of time on task because he's been banged up in his first couple of years with the Bills. And then Cam Lewis is the one filling in for Taron Johnson, backup nickel / safety / do it all kind of stuff. Ravens fans might know him as the guy that Justin Jefferson caught that pass against in that Vikings-Bills game when it was like 4th and whatever, and Cousins just chucked it up and Justin Jefferson took it away from a Bills defender. That defender was Cam Lewis, but he's played admirably as well. But that second level is all backups. And again, they played admirably well, and Babbage and McDermott have set them up for success, but it is definitely an area to potentially exploit and or attack if you are the Ravens offense, both in the run and the pass.
Love it. If you are watching right now, please go smash the like button, all that good stuff all the YouTubers want you to do. Easiest way to support the podcast is to simply subscribe on YouTube. Very, very simple. Allows us to reinvest in ourselves through some advertising, do some of those fun things. Go follow Ant at pro__Ant. Follow Cover One. Cover One, killing the YouTube game. If you want to see some other previews, get into some Bills content ahead of this one, please head on over to the Cover One network. Cover One on YouTube. Ant, how are you feeling overall? What do you see on the other side of the ball? I'm not going to lie, I watched a lot less Bills defense because I do feel like I know what they like to do. Mm-hmm. With me saying that, what comes to mind that I don't know what they like to do? What have you seen that's maybe a little different personnel-wise or schematically, or what teams have presented to them, and just general thoughts on this matchup, the Ravens offense against the Bills defense?
So something that I think isn't being talked about a bunch, and I think it is largely due to the injuries because we saw it last year, them going with more dime this year, especially on third downs, known passing situations. You will see a linebacker pop out, and you will see Jamarcus Ingram, their third corner, who has inside-outside versatility. He will come in and then play inside, and he's done a really good job. He had a pick 6 on Tua. He's got 2 picks on the year, I believe. Really physical, just tough, hard-nosed type of dude. Another aspect that I think from the coverage standpoint for the Bills, a lot of creativity with what they're doing this year. And again, it's not anything complicated. Like, it's just what they're showing and what they're spinning to, how they're getting to cover 3. A lot of non-traditional Tampa 2 stuff. They're taking an outside corner and their slot and dropping both those guys as the deep half safety players, and taking a safety as a cloud player and taking the other safety and having them be that high robber or that Tampa player, depending on if you want to call it, Tampa 2 robber or Tampa 2 hole or invert or whatever. Just a lot of creativity. They'll show that same look, and then instead of having the safety be the Tampa player, they'll just be a hook to curl player and buzz down. So a lot of creativity between their 2 high and single high looks, a lot of disguising, a lot of spinning right on the snap. They're very well coached at getting to their landmarks, knowing what area of vulnerability there is based on what coverage, tying that in with their pressure packages, good 5-man stuff, good simulated and creepers, holding it until the last minute, spitting out of it. They're a very well coordinated group in terms of coverage and pressure packages, tying both together, marrying the front with the back end, and having it be a well coordinated dance. With all that being said, I do think you can run on this group. We haven't really seen, really just because of the game script, in the second and third game, Miami wasn't really able to run the ball on the Bills because the game got out of hand. Same thing with Jacksonville. The only team that really tried to run it on them was the Cardinals because of how that game went. And like you alluded to, they had a bunch of success with a lot of pin and pull stuff, especially in the first half. Bills course corrected a bit for the second half, but we saw Kyler Murray using his legs by design and on scrambles. We saw some good successful runs for Benson and for James Conner. That's how I'm attacking this Bills defense if I am the Baltimore Ravens, and just where they sit right now. For those wanting to know some numbers, the Bills have the 7th highest EPA per rush allowed at 0.08. And then from a light box perspective, they have the 2nd highest EPA per rush allowed at 0.32, which is a ton. If I'm the Ravens, I'm going into 12 or 13 or 22, depending on how you want to classify Ricard, and I'm going to mash them. And I'm going to throw the ball in between the numbers left and right. I'm going to attack that second level. I'm going to force them out of 2 high looks and into single high, because Both of their safeties aren't the most athletic guys. They're very sound responsibly in terms of their coverage and doing what they need to do. But if you want to be able to, get Zay Flowers on a nice deep post, or you want to threaten that second and third level in between and get on some toes in a hurry, you could threaten them with speed and take advantage. Granted, your offensive line has to be able to pass protect long enough to let those longer down the field routes develop. But yeah, I think this Bills defense can be had in the run game, because I think they have to commit more bodies in order to be sound. Granted, their defensive line is very good, but just because of what that second level is right now.
And with guys like AJ Epinesa and Greg Rousseau on the field, that's why they got those guys and have them play outside. We talked about AJ Epinesa on your show, someone I love. The Bills had him lose a lot of weight, but for what he is in this current physique, he can hold up really well on the outside of the run game. Greg Rousseau is a dominant run defender, holding the edge there. I said on your podcast, kind of gives me a little bit of Terrell Suggs vibes in some ways. He's a big dude. He's maybe not the quickest in the world in terms of speed and foot speed, but he is enough to shimmy. He's probably a really good basketball player. You can see that in his game. He's quick enough to win his gap and do all those things consistently. So that's why the Bills like to play their nickel, like to play their dime. They don't come out of base. I believe Jonas Schaefer of the Baltimore Sun asked John Harbaugh at his availability this week, do you think that you'll get any base out of the Bills? And John said, why don't you go ask Sean? Because
that's good.
We've seen some dime. We haven't seen much base. So with that in mind, Derrick Henry, history against the Bills. When did McDermott become head coach? 2018? 2017. Derrick Henry in that time ran the ball 83 times against the Bills for 359 yards, 4.3 a carry, 7 touchdowns. Really only had one big game at all, which was on a Monday night shootout against the Titans in 2021, where he ran for 143 yards, fueled by, I believe, like a 76-yard touchdown in that game. Ends up having a couple more touchdowns to get the hat trick there. So definitely Derrick Henry, of course, mixing Justice Hill in a little bit. Warren Sharp, who people do kind of hate, but I like what Warren does in ways. He's definitely gotten too big, #too big to fail. But he said the Ravens are the complete opposite of any offense the Bills have played. Cardinals, Jags, and Dolphins, top 10 in percentage of throws outside the numbers and in 20-plus air yards. The Ravens are 30th in percentage of attempts outside the numbers and 32nd in passes of 20-plus air yards. The thing about that is I think the Bills know that too. And like you said, mixing in coverage. So we talked about the Bills attacking the middle of the field. We put a big X on the screen that do not leave that big void in the middle of the field. Lamar Jackson, one of the best passers over the middle of the field since he entered the league. The tight ends, you mentioned the 12 personnel. They're using 12 personnel, 35% of their plays, which is up from 13% last year. Number one in the league in 12 usage. A ridiculous amount of 12 for the Baltimore Ravens. So to me, of course, the run game going to be a big issue, a big deal. I think that McDermott's done a nice job in when the Bills have faced Lamar Jackson, scrape exchanging. I think McDermott is going to be a lot more sound than we just saw the Dallas Cowboys, who did not know how to do that fundamentally. They did not know how to scrape exchange, have the read defender bite on the running back and then scrape over top. The Bills, even with some backup linebackers, I think will be a lot more confident in making those reads. It is easier said than done. Lamar Jackson can hold the ball for so long like he did against the Cowboys on kind of that game-winning first down rush that allowed them to run the clock out. He held the ball so long that it faked out Harbaugh, it faked out the cameraman, it faked out the fans. The Cowboys fans were all cheering apparently in the stadium because they thought Zay Flowers got tackled. All those kinds of things. I do remember the white sleeves game. Lamar Jackson has that highlight on Matt Milano as Milano was still ascending. He can still take you out of your shoes even if you're there. But they do a nice job limiting those from killing them as opposed to maybe being a first down or a successful run ultimately. So in this one, tight ends I think are massive, huge factor. Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews today talking about how he feels great. He feels fine. And it's kind of like the Bills. Everybody's getting targeted. The ball's getting spread around. There's no kind of number one guy. It depends on the game plan. I think the main guys for the Ravens are Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. Between the two of them, they're running the ball 30, 35 times a game. If you're running 60, 65 plays, you only have about 30 other plays. We talked about this on your podcast. 10 of them are probably a scramble, a drill, broken play drill. So there's about 20, 25 plays where it's kind of a primary read for someone to get the football. In this one, the big question for me, I tweeted this yesterday. The Bills have allowed 0 completions of 30-plus air yards. The Ravens have allowed 1. And the Bills have done a better job in general defensively, against the pass and dropping more defenders. And the Ravens haven't blitzed super heavy, but dropping more defenders. They like to rush 4. The Bills, if they rush 5, it's very conservative kind of rushing to just maintain gaps and kind of apply some pressure. So my big question, and I think what decides this game, is if either one of these teams can generate that explosive pass play. You and I talked about the Bills safeties. Rapp, a smart player that can play with tight ends. Damar Hamlin has been playing great on the back end. Very smart, both very confident. They got to watch Poyer and Hyde do that for years. You got plenty of tape, plenty of looks. McDermott knows it all. Yep. And with that said, those guys maybe aren't the most dynamic athletes in space. Can Zay Flowers split the safeties? Can Rashad Bateman split the safeties? Can you get some post concepts, some scissors concepts, something to draw guys away and see if you can hit between or over top of those safeties? I think that's a big question. And again, the Bills, the motions, all of those kinds of things. It's kind of, I think these teams, and I do think a lot of this comes from the Chiefs ultimately. The Chiefs have been into what the Bills have become for a while. It feels like the Chiefs have gotten away from that.
Yeah, actually.
It's not what it was. I feel like they got bored or something maybe. They're not using motion as creatively as they used to. So I feel like we're watching a little different iteration with maybe a little bit more 11. I don't know. I was going to say something dumb probably. A little bit more 11 personnel from the Bills, but can the Ravens stay disciplined? That's been an issue. Leverage has been a big issue. The Bills offense forces you to maintain leverage despite the eye candy and the motions. Inside leverage if you need somebody to go outside. We watched that Kincaid sail route. Hey, we want to get outside leverage. Let's bring him in motion inside so we can get outside leverage on it. So I think those are kind of the big keys there. I think the Ravens and Bills also, I tweeted this one, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, that 30-plus air yards vein, deep balls. People categorize that as 20. I could have looked at that, but I looked at 30. I want to see, are they pushing the actual ball down the field? 2 for 9 with 1 completion each on passes that have traveled 30 yards in the air. So I think that if one of these teams can back the other team off, I think that team will win. I'm not sure who it will be. I think the Ravens maybe have, I don't know. It's tough. Bills do have some guys that can run. They are deceptive a little bit more than the Ravens are in breaking your coverage tendencies and getting your coverage defenders to be a little more clueless. I think the Ravens may have a little more speed to kind of push downfield. So I'm looking there. I think this is going to be an interesting game, a close game. What do we got for the spread currently? I had it pulled up a minute ago.
I'm thinking initially, I think at the beginning of the week, I think it was Ravens 2.5.
It was Ravens 2.5 to begin. We're looking at still 2.5, the over 46.5. So that puts the Ravens, they think they're going to win something along the lines of like 25-ish, 24-ish to like 20, 21-ish, somewhere in that department, right around there. To get to predictions, Ant, you have predictions about the game. I usually, and my coach Jake usually always do a score prediction. You don't have to, but you certainly can if you want.
I'm not going to do a score because I'm too superstitious. I don't do it anywhere on the network, anywhere I go. I do think I'm very excited to see what happens, but my prediction is, and I'll go from a schematic perspective. And, it's funny, Warren Sharp's tweet, what it mentioned. And I'm going to harken back to week 1 when the Cardinals had a bunch of success against the Bills, going 12, going 13. And a lot of that for the Cardinals comes from their tight end grouping. Trey McBride is a tremendous athlete, really good tight end. And no disrespect to Tip Ryman or Elijah Higgins, who are there, 2 and 3 or 3 and 2, however you want to classify them. That group of tight ends, whoever is the 2 behind McBride, is nowhere near Andrews and Likely. And then you add in Lamar, and you add in Henry, and you add in Zay. And I'm still a Rashad Bateman truther. I'm still going to point to that huge touchdown against Miami like a couple years ago where he just catches it, breaks a tackle, and houses it. Like, I refuse to not believe. He actually was doing very good. This is a point, too, that not to get too off track. In that game where a couple years ago in the rain when the Bills came back and beat Baltimore, it was a much different game before Bateman hurt his foot and then was out for the rest of that game. So I want to point that out because everyone was like, man, the comeback was on.
Really, their main receiver going into that year.
Yep, absolutely. And he looked great up until that point, and then he got hurt, didn't play the rest of the game, was kind of sideways from there. But I look for the Ravens to really kind of echo the game plan that the Cardinals had. Live in 12, run a bunch of gap stuff. It doesn't have to necessarily be pin and pull. It can be, QB bash, GT counter read, like just lean into that Lamar Reed element. Make their second level have to honor the run. Make their safeties have to come down and into the box and stress the hell out of them. And they can live in 12 And what's nice at having Andrews and Likely, you can do similar stuff to what the Cardinals do and what the Bills do with their 12, where you can be in 12 and have it be condensed or with reduced formational width and mash, or you can go spread and put Andrews and Likely in the slot. And then you can start to get the Bills into that light box category that I talked about. And okay, cool. Like, are the Bills going to defend Derrick Henry and Lamar on the ground out of spread with a light box, or are they going to keep a seventh defender in? Wow, that is the loudest motorcycle ever. I don't know if you heard that on my end. Or are they going to keep a seventh? Are they going to keep a seventh defender in the box? And now all of a sudden you're playing that numbers advantage game outside with Zay and Bateman and whatever you want to do. I think the Ravens offense is going to stress the Bills defense, or I should say has the potential to. I think given their skill set, given their individual players, but who they are from a roster standpoint, body type, makeup, and schematic potential, I expect them to give the Bills defense a little bit of a problem and give them some fits. And then on the other side of the ball, I'm going to go back to the point that you and I talked about when I had you on my show Tuesday. I want to see what wins out. Is it the scheme of the Bills, or is it the talent of the Ravens defense? Because I think, like, player for player, bar for bar, the Ravens have more talent on their defense than the Bills do on their offense. But the Bills are just clicking schematically right now at this point. So can the Ravens, up their click potential a little bit, or do we see that talent outshine the scheme ability that the Bills have? And, you made a good point, like with the speed of Zay Flowers and the speed of Bateman and what you have at the receiver spot, the Bills don't necessarily really have that. They've got some good athletes and some guys that live in the run in the pass that make all this, variability and accessibility and not having to turn the page in order to access more of the menu. That's what makes it all work, but they don't have an overwhelming amount of speed to threaten you deep. Everything is very scheme dependent, and you can kind of cancel out good scheme if you've got better horses. And I think the Ravens have some really good horses. I think their O-line is good. They haven't been tested like anybody like Madubuike inside. And Torrance, really good year 2 rookie guard, struggles with speed a little bit. If I'm the Ravens, I'm putting Madubuike on Torrance every single rep I possibly can, and I am having him haul ass on the snap every time to threaten him with speed. And I think it's going to be a war and a really good football game.
Love it. Love all of it. Great breakdown, Ant. I think that whoever wins this game has the football last. I think that it's tough to stop a confident Bills team 4 times in a row if they have enough time. I think that if the Ravens and John Harbaugh hold their challenges and timeouts, especially in the second half until the end of the game, that would do them a lot of favors here. It's going to be loud. It's going to be very loud. The Bills haven't really played in a loud environment yet. I'm curious to see how they respond. I think if the Ravens do win this game, I am going to take the Ravens at home. I've flip-flopped since I've been on your show. I'm going to take the Ravens at home here to squeak it out. I think I'm going to go with I like to do funny scores. I'm going to go 29-25.
Oh, I hate it. It's so ugly. That's like what's the scoregami type?
I always try to make it a little quirky, a little weird, a missed 2-point conversion, a safety, something like that. So penalties have been an issue for the Ravens. Let's see if they can calm that down at home. If the Ravens do win this game, I think Isaiah Likely is a huge reason why. I think he is the toughest dude they have after the catch, getting him the ball in space, testing those linebackers and safeties like we talked about there. Very solid, consistent players, maybe not the most dynamic athletes. So I'm going to say Ravens take this one 29-25. And Ant, I think that about does it, my friend. Anything else you want to talk about yourself, the show, and where the people can follow you, all that good stuff?
Sure. Once again, thank you for having me. I had a great time. I knew I would. I was dude. When you DM me today, I was like, oh, hell yeah, I'm totally down. I was like, I feel bad that your co-host isn't feeling good, but hell yeah, I'm psyched. Let's do it. I host 2 shows for the Cover One Network. One of them is Disguise Coverage. That's my solo show, and I have varying guests. I've had like Nate Tice, Mina Kimes. I've had you, just whether it's, specific. It's not media based. It's people who I think know the schematics of football, so we can have schematic conversations in season and out of season. That's live on YouTube every Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. I do a lot of stuff with advanced metrics and film on that show. It gets uploaded all the podcasting apps right after. And then every Wednesday, I co-host the Cover One Film Room. That show is holistically film-based with some advanced metrics in it as well. And that's breaking down everything from the Bills prior week, what worked, what didn't, offensively, defensively, trends, everything we're seeing, concepts, what's working, what's not. Sometimes it's pre-recorded and uploaded between like 5 and 7 on Wednesdays. Sometimes it's live. That differs a bit, but that's me. And then, I'm on Twitter at @pro__ant. Do a bunch of Bill stuff, but I also break down a lot of tape across the league in general and really into
You're a big draft guy like me.
Yes, I absolutely am. And I'm very glad that you nailed both underscores. A lot of people don't. They have me on and they'll be like, follow me at pro_ant. And I'm just like, oh, damn.
So close. So close. And thank you for coming on. Thank you to our presenting sponsors, Jimmy's Seafood, Black Eyed Susan Spices. Go check them out on Hot Ones every week with their Red Flag hot sauce. They have some fun events coming up. Go check out Fed Thrill, promo code exit52, blackeyedspices.com, code exit52. Like the show, go follow the podcast at Exit52 Podcast, at Jake Luke, LOUQUE. Taylor's at Taylor Smythe 10. I am at Ravens 4 Dummies. That's the number 4. You can follow Brian at Barstool Banks. Eric at EDITTI as the Baltimore Orioles are continuing on into the playoffs. We have some coverage and hopefully clinching up the wild card game. Thank you so much, Ant, for joining us. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. We will talk to you after the game. See ya.